Welcome to another healing conversation brought to you by acoustichealth.com. I'm Loren Gailey, and I'm in the quantum zone with Patricia Diane Cota-Robles. This time that we are living is magnificent in the fact that once we realize the key to this entire game is our ability to create with our thoughts, emotions, and feelings. And these are the wonderful teachings that Patricia Diane offers for all of humanity. Please welcome Patricia Diane Cota-Robles to the Quantum Zone. Thank you for being here, Patricia.
Well, thank you, Lauren. It's wonderful to be here.
The words that you share and the teachings that you offer are so uplifting and inspiring. And that really makes it seem like our work is simple, yet it's not always so easy. When we follow this path of purity and living in the heart, it really does make things easier. So can you share more about what is happening on an energetic level? It's like a precipitation from the heavens above down into our field, into our environment.
Yes.
What's going on there from your perspective?
Well, this is such a powerful time, Lauren, and it's a unique moment on this planet, and we're working through just unprecedented shifts of energy, vibration, and consciousness. And whether people are consciously aware of it or not, every single person on the planet has at some level agreed to be part of this tremendous transformation that's taking place on the planet now. And what we're becoming so obviously aware of, and this is something that we've all known in our hearts and are beginning to really experience it, is that our thoughts, words, actions, and feelings are creative, and that at any given moment our life experience is reflecting what we have created through our earthly sojourns, through all of our various lifetimes, and it's manifesting on Earth now. So we are aware that as we draw higher frequencies of light from the very heart of our Father, Mother, God, the all-encompassing, omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent, cosmic I Am, our Father, Mother, God, within which we all live, move, breathe, and have our being, whether we understand that or not, or whether we can fully comprehend that on a conscious level yet or not. Within this force field of light, everything is energy, vibration, and consciousness. So as we reach up into higher frequencies of vibration and draw that down, it pushes everything that conflicts with that light to the surface. And that's what we're experiencing now on the planet. People are becoming aware that as they create positive thoughts, words, actions, and feelings, setting goals for themselves, envisioning what they want to manifest in their life, the light is flowing through them, and it's pushing everything that conflicts with that to the surface to be transmuted and healed to pave the way for what they want to create and manifest in their lives. And so from outer appearances, it often looks like things are really just in total chaos. And this is the time, I think, biblically that was referred to as the time of screaming and the gnashing of teeth, because as more and more people on the planet become aware that they are the creators of their life experiences, not the victims of their life experiences, they invoke more light, and it pushes the negativity up to be healed and transmuted. So we can easily see in this denser vibration the negativity being pushed to the surface. What we don't see as easily is the incredible light that's pushing it to the surface. So as we are reaching up in consciousness, we're connecting with all of the higher dimensions of truth. And this is something that we have always supposed to been able to do. You know, we weren't ever, and when I say we, I'm talking about humanity and the sons and daughters of God abiding on earth. This physical plane is a schoolroom of learning, and we are here to learn how to use our free will and our creative faculties of thought and feeling to create wonderful things, to, as they say in the heavenly realms, to expand the borders of the kingdom of heaven on earth. And we were always supposed to have the higher teachers and guides and legions of light in the heavenly realms guiding and directing us. But when we fell into such denseness through what we call the fall eons ago, we lost contact with that higher dimension. Now all of that is being reversed, and we're beginning to reach up in consciousness, reconnecting with our sisters and brothers in the heavenly realms who have just moved into a higher level of consciousness. And they're like college professors compared to us being kindergarten students. We were always supposed to have access to these teachers and to these beings to help us here. It was only after we fell that we lost awareness of them and that we fell into such dense frequencies that we couldn't connect with our own God self and the company of heaven. So we created this fragmented, fear-based part of our consciousness that we call our human ego. And this distorted consciousness began to accept that our physical body is who we are and the physical plane is all that exists. So it thought its purpose and reason for being was to just gratify our physical senses. And so we developed this consciousness that whatever we needed to do to survive, lie, cheat, steal, kill, to gratify our physical senses was appropriate. So we've now created this incredibly distorted reality where we can see that manifesting all over the planet, where people are doing abominable things to each other, to the earth, just out of this sense of survival. And now as we're moving into higher and higher vibrations, all of that is beginning to shift, and people are beginning to connect again with those higher realms and beginning to remember. So some of the information that's coming from those higher realms is that we are creating our own reality, that our thoughts and feelings are creative, and that whatever we empower with our thoughts, words, actions, feelings, beliefs, whatever we're thinking about, whatever we're focusing on, we're manifesting in our lives. So it becomes blatantly obvious and very clear that what our responsibility is to focus on what we want to create in our lives instead of what we don't want. So the momentum now pouring through millions and millions of people on this planet, this awakening, this remembrance, is to shift our focus of attention from feeling this victim consciousness to realizing that we are creating our realities and to begin deliberately focusing on what we want to manifest in our lives.
That's the key, to deliberately focus on what we want to manifest in our lives and getting out of that victim consciousness and those belief systems. So that's what's going on now, and maybe that's not so easy for everyone, but when we look at the belief systems that we release and what we're able to do in our lives once we move out of those beliefs, we can see that miracles happen. What is it that keeps people in these belief systems, or what makes it difficult for them to release or make those changes?
Well, it's very complex, but we have fallen into such frequencies of discord, and all of that is being reversed now, and we're raising up out of this. But the reason we have been here for so long is because the outer world has supported that belief. Even, say, the world religions and our life experiences, we've been told that we are worthless sinners and worms in the dust, and even I've heard, religious factions say that humanity is innately evil. And so we've been beaten down into this hopeless and helpless situation where we believe that we have no choice in what's going on in our lives. we've also been told that because we are worthless sinners and worms in the dust and innately evil, that we are being punished by God, and that everything that's happening in the outer world to us is because of this situation. So we've just accepted that, and we go through our everyday life experience. If something bad happens in our life, we just accept that there's nothing we could do about that. If something good happens in our life, we just accept that that was just a fluke and that wasn't something that happened through our own intervention. But the actual opposite is true. And what we're understanding now is that, for instance, when we receive our gift of life, which is our life force, this is the electronic light substance that we receive really from the heart of our Father, Mother, God. This electronic light substance enters our bodies. It activates our brains. It comes through this higher level of our consciousness that the company of heaven refers to as our I am presence, which is our divinity. And we've called this our higher self, our superconscious mind, our God self, our Christ self, all different kinds of terminology, but it's referring to the divinity within us. The reason the beings of light are encouraging us now to use the term I am presence is so that we can really recognize the magnitude of this aspect of our divinity. You know, when Moses spoke to the burning bush and said, "Who are you?" the response was, "I am that I am. I am Alpha, I am Omega, I am the beginning, I am the ending." And what the I am, I comes from Alpha, meaning the beginning, and that refers to the masculine polarity of our Father God. Am comes from Omega, meaning the ending, and this refers to the feminine polarity of our Mother God, which we have always known as the love nature of God, the Holy Comforter, which is the Holy Spirit. And these two polarities of God are the beginning and ending of all that is. And they create what now even science is referring to as the divine matrix, which is this all-encompassing presence. This is probably what Einstein is referring to in the unified field theory. It's this all-encompassing force field of light within which every atomic and subatomic particle and wave of life throughout the whole of creation exists. And each of us are sons and daughters of God, reflections of this all-encompassing presence. And when we were created, when we were first breathed forth from the heart of our Father, Mother, God, we were an individualized expression, like a miniature sun of this all-encompassing presence. And all that our Father, Mother, God have is contained in this sun. And this is our I am presence. And this is the part of us that is created in God's image. And this I am presence, when we say I am, it is a code word that tunes us directly in to this all-encompassing presence of God. So when we refer to the divinity within us as our I am presence, we connect directly with all that is, that all-encompassing presence of God. And so when we are working with now manifesting what we want in our lives and going through this creation, we realize, and what the beings of light are teaching us from the higher realms, is that we receive this unformed primal life, which is our gift of life. It flows through our I am presence, and our I am presence projects it into our earthly bodies, which is our physical body, our etheric body, our mental body, and our emotional body. This light first flows into our spiritual brain centers, which include our pineal gland, our pituitary gland, the hypothalamus gland, and the ganglionic centers at the base of our brain. Then it flows into our heart, and within our heart is where our I am presence our divinity is anchored. And we've all heard about either the heart flame or the spark of divinity within our heart. And what happens is this light force, this electronic light substance, enters our heart, and it's stamped with our unique, individualized electronic pattern. Now, we know that we have individual DNA, we have individual fingerprints, we have individual voice patterns, respiration patterns, and now understanding we also have an individual electronic light pattern. And we've seen people in hospitals when they're making their transition, they have electrodes taped to their brain for encephalogram and electrocardiograms when it's taped to their heart. And we watch the monitors and we see this electronic light, this life force flowing through everybody's bodies. And when that soul, when that person leaves their physical body, the monitors are flat. When the life force is withdrawn, we can no longer sustain our physical body. But as long as we are in our bodies, that light continually flows through us and energizes every part of our physical body. It is also the energy we use when we send forth our thoughts, words, actions, and feelings. So, for instance, we are receiving this gift of life. It enters our heart, and it's stamped with our unique individual electronic light pattern. Then we choose, through our free will, how we're going to use that light. How are we going to qualify it with our thoughts and our words and our feelings and our beliefs and actions. And for instance, if we're sending forth a feeling of love, this light enters our heart, it's stamped with our electronic pattern, then we charge it with the frequency and vibration of love. And then it leaves us and goes forth on an electromagnetic current of energy, very much like a radio wave or a television wave. And it goes to the person, place, condition, or thing we're thinking of and we're sending that love to. And as it passes through the atmosphere, it magnetizes to it other energy that's vibrating at that same frequency. So this vibration of love is like a megahertz frequency. It is a megahertz frequency. And for instance, when we turn on our radio or our television, the reason we don't just get this garbled mess is because we are turning to a specific megahertz frequency. Like 91.7, for instance, is the megahertz frequency on the radio dial. So the love is qualified with that particular frequency. It draws other energy that's vibrating at that same frequency to it. So by the time it gets to, for instance, the person that we're sending that love to, it blesses them with whatever we're sending them. They receive it in alignment with their divine plan and whatever they need to learn from that. This is the process of involution, the light coming from the heart of God through our I Am presence into our pineal gland, into our heart, through our bodies, and then sent forth on our thoughts, words, actions, and feelings, and it goes to the point of destination that we have sent it to. Then, fulfilling the law of the circle is the process of involution. And so that energy then returns to the source. So first it is magnetized back to the person that sent it forth. And the way it knows where to go to is it's magnetized back to the identical electronic pattern that is pulsating within our heart flame. And so on that return current, that current of love again accumulates more energy vibrating at that same frequency. So by the time it returns to us, it is greatly amplified over what we sent out. And this is really important for us to understand, because this is how things get so complicated and so distorted. What might have seemed like just a simple feeling of love for somebody, by the time it accumulates vibrations of love on the outgoing journey and on the return journey to us, it is greatly magnified. So what might have seemed like just a simple thought of love for someone, could manifest as something seemingly unrelated. Like in that instance, since it's positive energy, it could manifest as a success in our job, as a financial accomplishment of some kind, as a healing in our body, as a loving relationship, and myriad other seemingly unrelated things. Then that energy continues through us, through our pineal gland, through our I am presence, on its return journey back to the source. And this is the continual process throughout our life with every single thought, word, action, or feeling we express. Now, once we began misqualifying our gift of life with negativity, with anger, with hatred, with fear, with all of the negative energy, vibration, and consciousness, everything changed. Because the universal law is that in order for something to return to the source, it must be vibrating with the same or a higher frequency of vibration than what we originally received. So when we started sending forth, say, a feeling of fear initially, this light, pure, neutral light from the heart of God entered our heart flame, stamped with our electronic pattern, and then we qualified it with fear. So as we send it forth to whatever we were thinking of and whatever we were afraid of, it went forth as this heavy, discordant, fragmented energy. And it began magnetizing other energy vibrating at that same frequency. And this like attracts like vibration is very similar, in fact, exactly, like when you're talking about the frequency, for instance, of tuning forks, and you walk into a room of tuning forks, and you strike the note of C on the piano, all of the tuning forks tuned into the frequency of C begin vibrating, and the others do not. If you have a tuning fork tuned to the note of D, you strike that, and that begins vibrating, and so do the other tuning forks tuned to that frequency, but the rest do not. So if you have a feeling of fear, you are magnetizing that megahertz frequency to your thought form or your current of energy. So it goes out to whatever you're fearing, and it is greatly magnetized by the time it gets there. It brings that negative energy into that person or that situation's life, affecting them in the way that is in alignment with their divine plan or their experience. Then it returns to us, and it again accumulates more energy. So by the time it returns to us, what might have seemed like just an expression of fear, and it comes back greatly amplified, it could manifest as something seemingly unrelated, like a car accident or a health problem, a financial problem, a relationship problem, or myriad seemingly unrelated things. Now, because this is negative and discordant, it can't pass through us to return to God, so it begins accumulating around us. And it begins initially, long ago, interpenetrating the cellular structure of our physical bodies. And if you could see it with your inner vision, it's like this heavy, dark, tar-like substance. So as it began interpenetrating the cells and organs and energy fields around us, it began creating aging, disintegration, disease, and all manner of discord. It began reflecting eventually on the elemental kingdoms, causing imbalances in the intelligence of the elemental kingdom. And so we began creating the inclement weather conditions of floods and famines and pestilence and plagues and all manner of discord in the outer world. We began creating disease, poverty, and all of the other painful experiences that humanity is experiencing now. When we fell into these denser vibrations and lost contact with our I am presence and the realms of illumined truth and the company of heaven, and started developing, as I mentioned earlier, this fragmented fear-based human ego, this ego observed the negativity and became more and more fearful. So we have now been experiencing for eons of time this adverse effect of our fall from grace, this fear-based consciousness of our human ego that has perpetually reflected the fear, the negativity that has created the pain and suffering that we've experienced through all time frames and dimensions. Our Father, Mother, God has never released a single electron of energy that reflects anything less than the love and the harmony and balance of God. There's no such thing as God's wrath. There's no such thing as God's punishment. There's no such thing as God harming or hurting any part of life in any form. Every single thing that exists in the physical plane that is reflecting any form of pain or suffering is a human miscreation. It is something that you and I and the other sons and daughters of God, back to the initial impulse of our fall from grace eons ago, something that we have created by falling into such dense frequencies that we lost awareness of our God self, our I am presence. We lost awareness of the company of heaven. We lost the ability to communicate and connect with those higher realms of truth. And so we have been falling, weeping and wailing through our valley of tears, miscreating negativity lifetime after lifetime until we've gotten in the mess we're in. Now everything is shifting. And because of myriad activities of light, we are moving through what's known as the shift of the ages. And we heard about this when we heard so much about the conclusion of the Mayan calendar on December 21st, 2012. And for 25 years, from harmonic convergence in August of 1987, we heard about the completion of the Mayan calendar and the shift of the ages. And it was an event and a moment in time that the beings of light want us to really understand about. The shift of the ages was much more than the completion of the 5,125-year cycle of the Mayan calendar. The shift of the ages was a moment in time that the beings of light said occurs every so many millions of years. And what happens during that cosmic moment is that cycles within cycles within cycles throughout the whole of creation dovetail into one rhythmic momentum that aligns with the heartbeat of our Father, Mother, God. And during that moment, the cosmic I Am, all that is, our Father, Mother, God, inbreathes the whole of creation up the spiral of evolution to the next octave of our learning experience. So all creation was breathed up that spiral of evolution at the moment of the shift of the ages. Now for the Earth, this took place on December 21st, 2012, when we aligned with the galactic core of the Milky Way. And on that day and through all creation, the Earth was breathed up the spiral of evolution to our next octave of our learning experience. And it was a process that had been building in momentum for a few decades to allow us to make this shift. But what took place, because we had fallen so far and were so far behind in our evolutionary process, we actually took a quantum leap into the fifth dimension. And what happened, this was on December 21st, 2012, on the next day, we reached a frequency of vibration that allowed us to birth a new fifth-dimensional new Earth. And all life, every man, woman, and child on the planet made this shift into the higher vibration. Now, it's not because everybody was vibrating at the right and perfect frequency of consciousness, but we had reached a critical mass. And the beings of light, there's all different kinds of things that determine when something reaches through quantum mechanics a critical mass. But to simplify it and to make us understand it at a real tangible level, the beings of light have said for us to think of it as 51%. So what happened on December 21st during that moment is that 51% of the energy, vibration, and consciousness of humanity had reached a critical mass that allowed an unstoppable shift of energy, vibration, and consciousness, absorbing the other 49% and moving us forward into this shift in the fifth dimension. Now, for instance, in science, when scientists are studying the quantum mechanics, and they're observing, for instance, an electron of light vibrating at a particular frequency, and it is increasing to the next higher frequency. When it reaches a critical mass, say 51% of the higher vibration, it absorbs the other 49%, and it disappears where they're observing it, and it reappears in the higher frequency. Now, this is why all of the prophets of old talked about this being the end times and the end of the earth, because with their third dimensional sight, they saw the earth disappear. What they did not see was the earth reappearing in the higher fifth dimensional frequencies. And that is exactly what took place on December 21st, 2012, a quantum shift of vibration. Now, when we look at the outer world and it seems like everything is going to hell in a handbasket, because that's what it appears as this negativity is being pushed to the surface, it seems impossible that we could have made that kind of shift. But what the beings of light want us to understand is that the people that we are observing on the news and in the media and through governments and through corruption and greed and abuse of power and all of those things, they say that people involved in those atrocities are actually a minuscule fraction of the 7.5 billion people evolving on this planet. And to the contrary, there are billions, with a B, billions of people every single day that in one way or another turn their attention to a higher power and invoke the light of God into their lives. Even people that are still making mistakes, even people that aren't living out in that full momentum of the divine love of Christ consciousness, are still invoking the light of God. These prayers are always heard, and they are always answered. So what took place on December 21st, 2012, is that we reached a critical mass that allowed every single man, woman, and child on this planet, the entire elemental kingdom, and the entire angelic kingdom serving the earth, to make the quantum shift into the initial impulses of the fifth dimension. And then on the following day, in the realms of cause, we birthed the new earth and all of the infinite perfection. We've always heard that when we move into the new heaven and the new earth, we thought that the old earth would pass away. But the only reason that prophecies like that, indicating that the old earth would pass away and only a few people would make the shift onto the new earth, and millions would perish and be left behind on the old earth. The only reason prophecies like that are ever divinely inspired is to show us what will occur at our present course of direction and to inspire us to change our course of direction. If in fact the old earth would have passed away with millions of souls being left behind, being perished in that process, it would have been a failed prophecy. The prophecy was given to inspire the sons and daughters of God evolving on earth, to invoke the light of God, to change our course of direction, and to avert that negativity. And that's exactly what occurred. Through the 25-year process from harmonic convergence in 1987, we reached a critical mass of divine love, the energy, vibration, and consciousness of the masses of humanity that allowed the two earths to become one, so that all life moved forward in this shift. Now, obviously, we still have to transmute the negativity that's associated with the old earth. And that's what's happening now. The negativity is coming up. Right now, we're walking with our feet in both worlds. But the new earth and all life have made that shift in the realms of cause. And the beings of light want us to understand that when something takes place in the realms of cause, which is where everything begins, nothing can prevent it from eventually manifesting in the world of effects, which is the physical plane of Earth. The only variable is how long that will take, and that is up to you and me and the rest of humanity. Because these patterns of perfection, when the new Earth was birthed on December 22nd, 2012, the patterns of perfection for the new Earth, which transcend all of the frequencies of the fall, all of the maladies and the pain and suffering from the old Earth, none of those human miscreations can exist in the fifth dimensional frequencies of the new Earth. The fifth dimensional frequencies of the new Earth reverberate with divine love, the reverence for all life, and the patterns of perfection for the new Earth. So all of those things, all of those patterns of perfection for the new Earth are now flowing into the mental and emotional strata. And it is up to you and me and the rest of humanity to tap into these beautiful realms of perfection and to draw this energy into the physical plane. So that's what's happening now. 2013 was the first year of the new Earth. And I know there's a lot of confusion about that because we still see so much negativity with the old Earth. Mm-hmm. What is going to happen as we're moving forward is that there will be people that will not totally change their life behavior before they leave this physical plane, through the process that we call death. But what will happen is that when those souls die that are still acting out adversely, that are literally moving into the light, kicking and screaming, those souls are going to be taken to the inner schools of learning in the inner planes on the new Earth, and they are going to be taught the patterns of the new Earth, which are the oneness of life, reverence for life, and being given the opportunity to transmute their karmic liabilities, all of their human miscreations, and their misbehavior, their distorted belief in separation and duality on the inner planes before they are allowed to re-embody on the new Earth. No one is going to be born into the frequencies of the new Earth that is bringing forth anything less than Christ consciousness as sons and daughters of God and the full momentum as their divine potential of learning how to be co-creators with our Father, Mother, God. So what is happening now is there are tremendous, wondrous influxes of light that are taking place. Throughout 2013, humanity was initiated through our I Am presence into the initial impulse of our return to Christ consciousness. Our pineal glands were activated to a higher ability to receive this energy, and our divine feminine, the feminine polarity of our Mother God is returning. We're beginning to remember this balance. When we fell into such separation, we lost awareness of the love nature of God, the Holy Spirit, our Mother God, the divine feminine, and we started believing that we just had a single parent and that from this fragmented consciousness that our Father God was all that existed. Well, what child is ever conceived without a mother and a father? As above, so below. So what's happening now is we're beginning to reconnect with the love nature of God. The feminine and masculine polarities of our Father, Mother, God are being balanced within us. So throughout 2013, we started reconnecting with Christ consciousness, reversing the adverse effects of our fall from grace. Our Mother God is now balanced within our brain structures, within our hearts, within our minds, and within our bodies in this physical plane. The love nature of God is now returning. So now in 2014, we are receiving unprecedented influxes of light to help us transmute the negativity from the old earth that is being pushed up. We're going through an unprecedented purging. And the elemental kingdom, which is the earth, the air, the water, and the fire, what we experience as also the ether elements and the nature kingdom and the inclement weather conditions that we're having now, this is the reflection of humanity's consciousness that's coming to the fore to be transmuted and healed. So this year, and specifically through the last few months since the vernal equinox in March, we have been experiencing a tremendous shift of energy, vibration, and consciousness that brings us up to this moment now of incredible light.
Oh, well, thank you for that explanation.
You're very welcome.
Wow. So beautiful. It is the reverse of the fall from grace. It's this reconnection. Then our work is to bring in these patterns of perfection on the new earth. I love that you mentioned that no new children are going to be born with anything less than this Christ consciousness. And so those who don't adapt to this are going to find challenges and then be schooled in the other lessons on this new Christ consciousness. So as we are manifesting, let's do a process. I know so many listening want to help the planet. We see some serious issues. Fracking. I know so many that word just tears at our hearts. But yet, please take us on a process that will allow us to work with this universal law of the circle, with our feelings that are magnetic, to really focus on what we want in this time of change.
Okay, this is such an incredibly powerful time, and what we're witnessing in the outer world is the negativity. I mean, we are watching the antithesis of the new earth manifesting in the outer world when we see the atrocities that humanity is inflicting on the earth, on humanity, on each other, with the wars, with the corruption, with the greed, with the abuse of power. All of that is the negativity that's being pushed to the surface, the antithesis of the reverence and oneness of all life. And even though we are, I know, trying to legislate things and trying to work through government officials, it's not going to happen through that level of consciousness. It's going to happen by a shift into Christ consciousness. This is what Einstein meant when he said, the problem will never be solved from the level of consciousness with which it was created. We're witnessing that in the outer world. For instance, if anybody tries to stop the atrocities that are being inflicted on the divine intelligence of the elemental kingdom, like fracking or oil or, the terrible things we're doing to the earth with pollution, or if we try to even get the most minuscule kind of orchestration with gun control so that just the lunatics and the drug cartels and people that are totally with the intent of abusing power can't get guns, we just receive such a backlash, with all of that that's going on. So that level, we're not going to shift things at that level of consciousness. We're going to shift it by drawing forth a higher level of Christ consciousness, which now has begun within us. Christ consciousness functions with the reality of the oneness of life, meaning that every particle and wave of life throughout the whole of creation is interconnected, interrelated, and interdependent. And what affects one part of life affects all life. What this means with us on a very practical, tangible level is that every single moment of every single day, with every thought, word, action, feeling, belief we are expressing, we are either adding to the light of the world, amplifying the problems on earth, increasing the light of the world, or we're adding to the negativity and the darkness, amplifying the problems on earth. So that knowing has to come from the inner level. The way this shift of consciousness is happening now, and it's beginning to happen for everybody, and now we'll talk about in a minute the Wesak Festival, this influx of enlightenment that is pouring into the planet now with this full moon that we're experiencing now, and the full momentum of Gautama Buddha, this is the time, the Wesak Festival is the celebration of his enlightenment. This shift of consciousness, the way people are going to begin experiencing it, is that the things that they used to do that gave them a sense of satisfaction, whether it was power, whether it was greed, whether it was accomplishment, that was harming any other part of life, is no longer going to feel okay. We're going to start having a gentler, more loving way of responding and interacting, realizing that through reverence for life and through cooperation and through working together, we can solve all of the maladies on earth. We will reach into the realms of truth. We will tap into the viable solutions in these realms of truth that are flowing into the mental and emotional strata now. There are solutions for every problem, for free energy, for cures for every disease that we have manifested, through working with the elemental kingdom, bringing the abundance of elemental life so that there will be no hunger, no lack, no limitation, no need for war or greed or all of the abuse of power, because we will see and know that only through reverence for life, working together in harmony and balance, and the oneness of life, will we move forward into these higher realms of perfection. The concept of guns will be irrelevant and obsolete. The concept of war will be seen as suicidal and directly counterproductive to our own good and to our own life experience on this planet. All of the prophecies have talked about on the new heaven and the new earth, there will be no aging, no disease, no negativity of any form, and we will be able to literally move into the oneness of life. The fifth dimension that we've moved into are what we used to think of as the heavenly realms. When people move through that dark tunnel into the light, they're passing through this sea of negativity, this psychic astral realm that we have created, into the light. And when they meet their loved ones there, they are always vibrating in their prime, in their vibrant health. There's no disease, no aging, no degeneration. On December 21st, 2012, those realms that we think of as the heavenly realms moved into the sixth dimension. So they're vibrating at even a higher frequency. So now our greatest responsibility is to transmute this negativity. And we will do that by using the most powerful tool that's been given to us by our Father, Mother, God, which is the violet transmuting flame. Our Father God is a sapphire blue radiance of divine will, power, authority, and God's first cause of perfection. Our Mother God is a crystalline pink essence of pure divine love, reverence for all life, and the oneness of life, of the Divine Feminine. These two energies blended in perfect balance create the violet transmuting flame. Now, this month and throughout this year, this violet flame is being greatly intensified. And it is also the predominant energy that will bathe the planet for the next 2,000 years when we're working with moving through the Aquarian age. As this energy bathes the planet, we have the ability to draw it into our heart flame, and it will actually be drawn into our heart, stamped with our heart flame, and then it will do whatever we ask it to do. And when we ask it to transmute the negativity that is surfacing on Earth, it enters that negative energy, blazes in through and around it, raises the vibration of the energy back into light, and that heavy, dark discord, that tar-like negativity, is cast into the violet flame through the centrifugal force of this energy, and it is transmuted back into light. Now, Saint Germain is one of the beings of light. It is known as the Son of Freedom. He is the guider and director of the violet flame from our Father, Mother God through all creation. And he is specifically working with the earth at this time to help us transmute the negativity for the old earth. And he's given us an invocation, and I'd like to do that invocation now. And this is, you can get this invocation. It's available on my website. You can sign up for our free monthly email newsletter sharing the information from the beings of light. And you can word this any way that resonates in your heart. It'll be available on this broadcast, but you don't have to have it in order to utilize. You can invoke the violet flame and use it in your own words. The advantage of using an invocation that everybody else is using simultaneously is that it greatly empowers it. It's like when we say the Lord's Prayer, the reason it is so powerful is because when we say the Lord's Prayer, we connect with every single person that's ever said that prayer since it was first given to us. So, if it's all right with you, Lauren, I'll go ahead and do this invocation for the violet flame. And just listen to this. Let it flow through your heart flame during this powerful time on the eve and the embrace of this Wesak full moon, so that this violet flame is going to clear the way for this tremendous influx of Christ consciousness and enlightenment that is going to be flowing into the planet for the rest of this time and the month of May and the rest of this year. This is moving us into a whole new frequency. All right, so breathing in deeply, going within the divinity of your heart. And this is the violet flame invocation from our beloved Saint Germain and all of his legions of violet fire angels. I am my I am presence, and I am one with the I am presence of all humanity. As one voice, one breath, one heartbeat, one energy, vibration, and consciousness of pure divine love, we invoke the most intensified frequencies of the fifth dimensional crystalline solar violet flame that cosmic law will allow. Beloved Saint Germain and your legions of violet fire angels, we ask that you blaze, blaze, blaze this violet flame with the power and might of 1,000 suns in, through, and around every thought, feeling, word, action, memory, and belief that humanity has ever expressed in any time frame or dimension, both known and unknown, that is reflecting anything less than heaven on earth. Transmute this energy cause, core, effect, record, and memory back into its original perfection, and seal this energy in an invincible force field of God's infinite light. We accept that this activity of light is being God victoriously accomplished, even as we call. We also accept and know that the violet flame is increasing daily and hourly, moment by moment, with every breath we take, until this sweet earth and all her life have ascended into the fifth dimensional realms of life on the new earth. And so it is. Beloved, I am. Beloved, I am. Beloved, I am.
Beautiful words. And so inspiring, because it feels as if the hard part is truly over. And now this is where we really step into our power and become the masters that we are. As we leave today, I know that you do some incredible work with the gatherings that you have. And there's a bigger discussion on planetary hierarchy, the spiritual hierarchy, and the step down in dimensions. That's another conversation with you. But I'm wondering, can you share with us what is going on when we gather at the sacred sites? If we were to check this on a scientific level, we would see that there are energy centers. And so what's going on for us when we go to these sacred sites?
Well, we are actually the open door that no one can shut. You know, in the Christian dispensation, Jesus kept reiterating, I am the resurrection and the life. I am the open door that no one can shut. And we misinterpreted that to experience that he personally was. But he was bringing to us the awareness that the I am, the divinity within us, is the open door for the infinite light of God. And he continually reiterated, these things I do, you shall do, and greater things than these shall you do. And he said, verily, verily, I say unto you, ye are gods, joint heirs with the Christ, sons and daughters of God. So each of us have that divine power through our I am presence, which is the part of us that's created in God's image. And when we travel to sacred sites, everywhere on the planet is sacred, of course. Our own homes, our own sanctuaries, our own altars, wherever we do our meditations, our invocations, our churches, and all of the places of worship and spiritual places are always powerful because we draw that light in. In addition to that, the planet is a sacred living, breathing organism, and she has what we call a crystal grid system that is identical to the acupuncture meridians in the bodies of humanity. And when we travel to these sacred sites, we are really being drawn to the power points, the acupuncture meridians, and the power points within the crystal grid system. And what happens when we're there is we're serving as acupuncture needles, and we draw the light from the core of creation, the heart of our Father, Mother, God, and send it through these power points into the divine momentum, which is known as the sun of even pressure. It's the heart flame, the divinity within the center of the earth. Our Mother Earth absorbs that light and then breathes it out through her crystal grid system, through all of the chakras and meridians on the planet, raising the vibration of the planet. And this is how the old earth and the new earth are becoming one, and how the old earth is being raised up in vibration. The more we use the violet flame to transmute the residue of the old that's being pushed to the surface, the faster we'll move into the new earth. And before long, we will be with both feet completely on the new earth, experiencing the wonder of the oneness of all life, reverence for all life, and all of the perfection of heaven on earth, which is the divine destiny and the path that the earth is now moving forward into by leaps and bounds.
It is really exciting, and it's so inspirational, and it's why every one of us chose to be here at this time. Patricia Diane Cota-Robles, thank you so much. Just truly magnificent teachings that you offer. So inspiring. Thank you for the wonderful work, and we look forward to following your teachings in the future.
Well, thank you very much, Lauren. And I'd just like to mention my website, if I may.
Please.
People can have access to all of their free webinars and videos and all different kinds of things to help understand greater levels of this information coming from the heavenly realms. It's Era of Peace, just ERAOFPEACE, eraofpeace.org, not .com, but .org. So please join us and sign up for the free monthly seminar. We offer free seminars all over the United States. You can have the free monthly newsletter access, and we would love to stay connected with you.
Oh, yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So
You're
wonderful. We are on New Earth. We just have to bring it in.
That's right. Thank you.
And thank you, too, for listening. We invite you to share this program with your friends and get this information out to the world. This is information you won't find in the mainstream media. We now leave you with music from the universe, literally created by the universe as mathematical equations were assigned to musical notes. The result is this beautiful music available at acoustichealth.com. Also, we invite you to take part in our online healing retreats, which feature spiritual teachers with powerful tools that will transform your life. Visit acoustichealth.com and click on Online Healing Retreats. Namaste.